everyone. I am Chan Ganaway of The Masters Fitness. This is episode 4, the final episode in a little mini series that we call The Voices of the Black Community in the Fitness Industry. In this final podcast episode in this series, we're bringing in executive Amy Boone Thompson from Idea Health and Fitness World, and we're bringing in Brendan Ayanbadejo for a second podcast. And wow, Reggie Williams, master trainer, you went 4 for 4. So we're bringing in him for the 4th. He's been with us from the start. We're talking about race relations. We're talking about the Black voices. We're talking about health and wellness in the Black community. We're talking about lower socio-economic sectors that need access to fitness. And then we're also going to talk about career paths for young Black professionals. So it's going to be very enlightening. This whole entire series has been very enlightening for me personally as the host. And these are my friends. These are business professionals that I've worked with in my 23-year fitness career. And I hope you enjoy it. All right, everyone. Listen, this is Chan Ganaway with The Masters Fitness, and this is actually a mini-series. We're finishing up today. This is episode number 4, and we're going to repeat with Reggie and Brendan Ayanbadejo. We're bringing in Amy Boone Thompson. I'll go a brief bio in just a second, but the idea is the voices in the Black community in the fitness industry, and we really want to hear about how culturally we can lift that part of the industry up, that piece, and then with some solutions today. And bringing Amy in is going to be interesting because that's a real organizational mindset that we're going to finally get to hear, which is great, instead of just hearing our initiatives and what we may be wanting to do individually and our thoughts and ideas about how to create fairness on all levels, be it community health or fitness careers. So we'll get this thing started. So Brendan Ayanbadejo, he is a Super Bowl world champion, a very well publicized advocate for the LGBT community, also a very proud father and husband. And recently, can I mention your new virtual gig?
Sure.
And a new virtual trainer and master trainer with an app called Fit On, which apparently has over 3 million subscribers. Pretty awesome, BA, to take that on. And then Reggie, former, the tears are just rolling down. Former franchise owner with Orange Theory Fitness, but actually had a very long 9-year run. You matched me, Reggie, because I left about 1.5 years ago. You kept going, so we actually had the same tenure. 9 years with what will probably go down as the greatest fitness concept in the franchise world that they've ever seen in 24, 25 countries and damn near 2,000 units. It's pretty incredible, but also a master trainer with Orange Theory, Nike elite trainer, and really just a trainer with an entrepreneurial spirit. And recently transitioning into CEO, recreating the company that he launched almost 10, 11 years ago, Body Lab. So look for big things for that. And then we come to Amy Boone Thompson, Vice President of Idea Health and Fitness, which also encompasses Oxygen Magazine, also Idea China and Korea. And they are 275,000 members strong. And the tagline, we are 275,000 educated fitness professionals who inspire our clients to live fit, healthy lives. So she is a VP at the executive level. So I am dying to hear the I'm sure you boys are too, to hear that organizational mindset and what's kind of going on in those meetings, which is going to be very exciting. So really, guys, as we dive into this, I wanted to note before we get into the actual minutia, all 3 of you are married, beautiful children, and full-time dedicated fitness professionals, which for the record is worth noting because that is a distinction that not many people have. 80 to 90% of everyone I've ever managed in some very large businesses have been single with no kids. So how did we do this? We did good. We've made it full-time, we're parents, and we're spouses. I don't know how that worked, but we snuck through. That's usually not the case. It really is an industry for single people, but maybe we can change that. Any comments on that? No? Good? Okay.
No, they're the why.
Yeah.
They're the why.
Maybe that's why we're...
Keep it easy. Keep it easy.
That's it. All right, listen. The overall goal is to present tangible ideas on several items. We're going to start here, which really was where I was going to bring Kia Williams in, but we can certainly talk on this, and that's improving fairness through fitness career awareness in the Black community. And also when we get to bullet point 2, Brendan and Reggie could come in as Black owners of fitness businesses, which I think is an important piece of it. But she talked last time, Amy, to bring you in, is about high schools, universities. Reggie actually mentioned trade schools, fitness certifications going maybe through those guys, and then who's going to market and outreach that to bring basically the certifications to the high schools, even lower middle schools, to get the people at least thinking about a career path or just being healthy and fit. And what Kia was doing is a real advocate for going to a university, for example, and trying to get a nationally recognized certification or credential baked into the curriculum in colleges. And I think that's really key, because we were talking about fitness is an expensive sport and there's always money. It seems like trainers are always investing into the industry, but it's kind of difficult sometimes to measure the return. And is it really something that's good? So Amy, could you add anything to that as far as going back in and trying to create awareness of that at university level or high school level?
I would love to. And it's definitely one of the ways that we see IDEA as an association where we could lean in and impact communities. So we have a college discovery program, and that program is typically creating opportunities and scholarships for college students to come to our World event. What we will be doing is expanding on that program, because we know that the curriculum piece is key, and we want to put IDEA's curriculum in our IFJ, our IDEA Fitness Journal, is all fact-based and researched, and we have a couple colleges that are using our material as part of their curriculum to prepare students for the workforce. We are not a certifying entity, but in my 25 years before coming to IDEA, in my clubs, was partnering with ACE and NASM and ACSM and using their curriculum to teach my emerging interns and my emerging fit pros in my community and through my club. So I would say, where IDEA can impact is we're going to be partnering with more universities. Beyond that, we see that we could create a path whereby fit pros could have career guidance or career fairs at their clubs and impact high schools and impact the community in a different way, and maybe give a template of how that can play out. But just a lot of ways. I do definitely see that we need more community outreach, and that trainers are willing, club owners are willing to get out in the community. They probably just need more templates and more support and more, here's how and here's why, and really just paint that outline for them.
Yeah, I think that's very important, the template piece, because there may be a lot of people sharing the idea and the concept, but then it just dies right there. You know what I mean? Even if you have some type of career fair inside your club or your whatever it may be, if there's not someone to really take you to the step 2, I mean, I just don't see it really having any legs. You know what I mean? So as far as kind of universities, Reggie, you mentioned trade schools, and what we talked about last time, just a reminder, is if it's a 2-year trade school or even a 9-month trade school, why couldn't that start to be a piece? Because there's a lot of people in lower socioeconomic sectors, as Brendan has mentioned in 2 podcasts, not just the Black community. That may be what the resources dictate, is a 9-month trade school instead of a $50,000 university education. Reggie, can you speak to that just for a second? Because I know that was kind of an idea you thought, like, let's stop thinking so big and let's bring it down and meet them where they're at. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep. And I was actually taking a walk this morning and was kind of thinking through fitness finding me. I could have missed that class, or I could have sat on the other side of the room, and I would have never been in this industry. Fitness found me through someone that I was in class with, and we just happened to start a conversation up. So had I never been part of that conversation, but I never really had access and knowledge of the career in the fitness industry. And I didn't really come from a low socioeconomic community. I just didn't know anything about the industry because there wasn't really anything out there. So like you said, university programs, obviously there's exercise and science programs there, but something that's smaller vocational, maybe it's a 9-month program, maybe it's an online program now But
Yeah.
I think just more exposure, more opportunity is going to bring a lot of good talent out that,
Yeah, and
maybe won't get exposed.
no doubt. And Brendan is pretty high on kind of identifying the people who are inspired to go do something, but maybe have no tools on where to go, what to do. We talked about the weekend programming and just finding those pieces of talent in those communities that would need the mentoring. But if we don't have somewhere, and Brendan, I'll let you take this over, to deliver them to, that meets their resources, that they can do, whether it be a small school loan through a trade school, that might be a $6,000 loan versus a $50,000 loan that's not even manageable. So Brendan, can you talk about that, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I love that you're using the word fairness, because you can't have equality until you have fairness, right? So fairness comes before equality. Then when everybody's on a level playing field, then we can have equality. But until then, we have to fill in the gaps. And how can we fill in the gaps? Going to, lower socioeconomic communities, disenfranchised communities, reaching out. There's not a playbook. There's not a game plan. And can we develop those things? And if you partner with an idea or with an ACE, you have to have a strategy where you're going in and you're getting people, maybe former athletes in high school, cheerleaders, so on and so forth. You can start planting those seeds very early, which I don't necessarily think that we're doing. And then, as I was filing for unemployment and doing other things, or if I'm applying for loans or looking at other governmental resources for stuff, you don't see fitness on any of the applications, whether, I'm filing for unemployment, being in the fitness space, or if I'm going for a loan to build a business, you don't see it. So I think that even from the highest level to the lowest level, there's places for us to start, and there's a ton of things that we need to fill in the gaps. I think the most important thing, though, is to highlight is if you do have a little bit of a sporting background or a little bit of nutritional or a little bit of fitness background. So say you just finished high school and you've been playing sports your whole life, right? You can take that person and you can turn them with not a lot of time and effort, but you can turn them into somebody that can teach fitness classes, not necessarily at a super high level, but you could take that person, and that's the person that I'd love to take. Just give me a year with that person. I can teach them so much about fitness. They don't need to be a doctor or a PT, just basic movements, planes of movement, how to put together programming, so on and so forth, check form, right? So I think that the barrier to entry is low, but from an intimidation factor, I think people are intimidated. And then I'm not only confident we can teach people how to be trainers and coaches, but the hardest thing is personality and talent, right? I think it's easy to teach the educational piece, but having someone that has that background where they're almost an entertainer or an actor, but putting sports behind it. So I think there's a ton of opportunity. I'm excited to talk more about it. And Amy, welcome to the show as well. But yeah, let's dive into it. There's so much opportunity out there. I can't wait to actually, we're coming up with the game plan now, but I can't wait to actually implement it and get into the community.
I know. And I think, the templates that we're talking about will need to be created by someone, and it may come from an organization like IDEA, who keeps, as they hear these podcasts and as the IDEA executives are part of events like this, these little ideas start popping up. Oh, we missed a sector. We missed a layer. Now let's start to add that in. Let's at least have the conversation. And so I think it's really key. And Amy, what we're talking about, and Brendan, by the way, taught me the word fairness instead of equality. He taught me that. And so I have changed my language a little bit in the 3 podcasts that we've been delivering. So I think this is all great. And I think the organizations that do this, is it going to be people volunteering down? Or people like IDEA, ACE, NASM, are they going to be able to identify people in those communities? That's the tricky part, is who is going to do this? Who's going to put them on a year path to do it? And I laughed when you said, Brendan, not everybody has the personality or the talent. And I started thinking, yeah, that's why a bunch of personal trainers don't teach group fitness. They stay right where they are because they're doing really good with that. And it doesn't mean they don't have a magnificent brain with programming, but you do have to cultivate and identify, Brendan, I think is what you said last time, identify the former athletes with talent but also some passion and a little bit of that, that X factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't want to pigeonhole like, oh, only athletes can be trainers.
Absolutely.
There's so many people that can do it, and people find fitness, a lot later. But there's so many people that can do it, but you already have a leg up if you played sports.
Absolutely. And Amy, to bring you into from podcast 3 or episode 3, we talked about the athletes. They already, if they continue a career in fitness, they can be around their passion. So if that big contract didn't happen, or that big Division I scholarship didn't happen, or maybe it didn't happen and they got injured, they can still be around their passion. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I did hear that episode, and I agree. As a former athlete, you're in the mindset of health and wellness.
Yeah.
So that's a great opportunity to bring them in. But when you talk about who, to me, that's what's happening right now is this more recent movement about who. Well, who is all of us? Mm-hmm. It's not just IDEA. It's not ACE. It's not the 3 of us or 4 of us on this call. Anyone in a community has a responsibility and an obligation to be more intentional about setting up programs. And it's not enough just to have a template and to have an internship. You have to actively go out and seek individuals to bring them in and foster their growth. So the who is, Chan, when you and I were at Club One, we had internships. We, as fitness managers, took that onus and built an internship before we had templates from ASIN and ASM and ACSM. Right. We did it on our own because we wanted to groom people in our own community to come through the system and learn this career and get eventually certified. Right. So the who is everybody. If you identify someone who has that personality, if they are your Starbucks barista, if they are helping you in a restaurant, servers have great dynamic personalities, then you tap that person and you bring them in and teach them about this opportunity to be a fitness professional. So who is everybody? And it's a shift in intention. It's not enough to have a program or a template. You have to be intentional.
Yeah. And I'm it's a silly example, but I'm thinking, 100,000 people are interested, because Paul Ryder, my former executive at Orange Theory, we would literally hire our server to come work the front desk at Orange Theory. We would hire them right off the restaurant floor. Like, you need to follow us. We're a half mile up the road. Come see us. But if 100,000 people, 200,000 people have that awareness, and they're looking, and they're in a lower socioeconomic area, or they're in the Black community, and they see someone who's got the it thing, to be aware to mention something, whether, or 200,000 people mention nothing. That's a big difference overall, and that can really get the snowball rolling. So let's see here. Let me go down. Improving access to fitness overall in the Black community. And Brendan, this is where we talked about the Black fitness professional becoming an owner, having mentoring, having preparation, having access to resources or a business partner. Because Amy, through the 3 podcasts, which I think you've heard, to me, and I told him I owned it, I'm naive, but I think if we have a lot more business professionals that are Black in those communities or other socioeconomic lower communities, then you will lift up the overall health and wellness in that community. Because now, as we discussed, it's a very blunt way to say it, but Black faces need to follow Black faces to kind of get motivated, to get started. It can't really come from me. And so anyway, that was kind of where the premise was. So Reggie and Brendan, access, we've talked about that word a lot, but I do think it's going to have to come from Black faces, either as owners, mentors, programming, community programs. And my project for me personally, after this series is over in about 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to start identifying the 10 or so organizations that are doing it fairly large scale in lower socioeconomic sectors and Black communities. Who's already doing it? Who's creating these big health and wellness initiatives? So boys, take it over for a second. Access, Black fitness. How do we get it increased?
You want this, Reg, or you want me to start?
You can go ahead and kick it off, and I'll follow. Yeah.
So honestly, like I don't see it at all, and so that's why I think it comes from an altruistic place. We talk about having to create templates and game plans, but and then we also talked about recruiting and headhunting, which is different. It's completely different because if you're recruiting, you know that it's going to help your business, it's going to help you, and there's a benefit there. But from an altruistic place or community service place, we need to create these programs. And kind of, I think about the programs that I benefited from, the Boys and Girls Club, where I could go play basketball and play sports, and different city parks and recs and things like that. So those are all, kind of state funded programs that they have. But I think that it's going to take entrepreneurs, it's going to take people thinking outside of the box to go into these communities from an altruistic place, not to create talent to work in your company, but to create and build talent and eventually build an ecosystem within the community. So if we're able to do that, and this is a long-term game plan type of thing, you're able to educate people, teach them on how to be business owners, business managers, coaches, front desk, so on and so forth. Then you can build, or they can build, or we can all build together a business entity within the community that serves the entirety of the community.
That's the key.
And then it also employs the community as well. So you're creating an ecosystem. This is a long-term plan. Who's doing that? I don't see anybody doing it. So I can't wait to hear what your research reveals, but that's the game plan that I want to implement with Orange Theory, and eventually doing that. And how does it start for us? The idea is that it starts with just doing a free workout, recruiting talent, and then you can build your message.
Yeah. And I think, Reggie, the mentoring piece, and you said you were going to be a lot more aware of going to them instead of waiting for people to kind of ask. We talked about that a little bit, but you also talked about possibly, and our eyebrows both popped up on podcast 3 of this series, about maybe an organization that's non-for-profit that helps people kind of develop and manage the business aspect. Because my fear, and I mentioned this, was, okay, they got 3,000 square feet. Now what? And we laughed about a business owner in the fitness industry. About 80% of their responsibilities has nothing to do with fitness or programming. It has to do with marketing and running a business. And you get to do your passion about 20% of the time, right? So can you speak on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I realize now our position, and Brendan, we're in a position to motivate and inspire, and put a face and say, hey, listen, I can't make it there. But like you said, there's so many different aspects to the business that once you enter in, you really do need to be 1000% focused on being an incredible coach, and adding value. And then from there, you go into learning all of the marketing and accounting and everything that needs to go on with that. So I think, yes, I haven't seen anything in place that helps a young fitness professional become a business owner, other than online coaching programs that I've been a part of. But I really want to set the expectation of being an incredible coach first is so important. Because like you said, there's tons of talent out there. I call them inter-trainers, right? So these personal trainers that now can go on and inspire a group of people. There does need to be that X factor there. And so that needs to be the foundation of your talent. And then from there, going in and learning all these different aspects. But, we don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Well, and I'm going to say that exact thing another way, Reggie. I think, and I'm being very oversimplified here, but the internet and Instagram, it has people kind of skipping all the 4 steps that you have to do to really, truly be a master at your craft. I just don't see the patience anymore, generally speaking. I don't see the patience that Amy and you and me and Brendan put into learning our craft. I mean, hell, I got master label applied to my name for the first time. I was probably 45 years old. Not at 23, Amy, are there any incentive programs specifically for minorities to become business owners, whether it be financially, SBA loans? Is there anything out there?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any in my research getting ready for this show, but also for the work we've been doing with our subject matter experts. I'm not aware of any that are either publicized. Again, if they exist, we don't know about them. So, but I would look to our franchisors, and you're all part of franchise systems. I was too. I worked in the franchisor office. So those organizations should be looking at programs. But I wanted to touch on, really what we're saying is if you can see her or him, you could be her or him. And that's what, being a woman in this industry and growing up and seeing, I didn't have examples. I didn't have role models who were women. but the same exists for our Black fitness professionals. If last year in our industry, you had a room of 100 CEOs at an event, not ours, and there was one woman and 0 Black CEOs. So that's an example of, you know, even as much work as we have to do to bring people in as fit pros and front desk and group X instructors, we have an even more challenging path to get our Black fitness professionals to the senior executive level. And so I think that decisions will be made for financing and for lending and for more opportunity when we start to diversify at the top level. And that's really where I think that we have to begin to do more work as an industry.
A great point. It's a wonderful point. And I think, you know, when I've been going to conventions almost as long as you have, or right about the same time, Amy, you'll see the master presenters up there, and there'll be 35 master presenters throughout a 3-day weekend. And you may see 1 or 2 Black professionals on stage. You know what I mean? It's really, and what's crazy about it is the ones that do get to that master presenter convention thing, they are usually the most dynamic, just passionate, fun. Everybody wants to go. They bring something to the table. They really do, because they just had to fight so dang hard, and they've had to, you know, as Kim said in our first one, they've had to work a little extra on their skill set and their talent to get there, and they usually blow people away.
Well, here's what I learned. So we, again, in listening to our members and our subject matter experts, we asked, you know, have you ever presented or written for an associate, for IDEA, or for any fitness entity or any entity? And the answer was no. Have you applied? The answer is no. And people with very strong credentials, like in our industry, especially for IDEA, our presenters have to be CEC-able, which means you have to have a degree or experience or certifications that we would be able to get CECs behind your content. So that's the first obstacle people have to get through. And we've talked about ways to get more people to that point. But beyond that, we have an obligation to continue to hand the microphone and offer a stage to more Black fitness professionals. And IDEA is doing that. I can assure you, we took a look at ourselves and said, you know what, we're guilty. We haven't been intentional about offering the microphone and stage to a more diverse presenter group.
Isn't that wonderful? See, I mean, I knew you were going to bring some goods, but I'd imagined that your meetings have been very intentional, and you've had to work through some stuff. So that's great news. I'm sure the gentlemen on this podcast welcome that news. They may be on your stage one day.
Should apply.
I think that's a beautiful thing, because there is a lot of diversity and inclusion, but there's not enough equity. So, I mean, I think that's what obviously that is what you're touching on, Amy, is just we need to create more equity. And I think, you know, through what we're doing, we're going to create more diversity and inclusion, and we're going to create the steps to have more equity as we go. And that's kind of the conundrum. Like, how do we create those things? If you're not CEC-able, then you got to reach out specifically in a fair way to the faces that you want to see and say, hey, like, these are the steps that we have to take. We already have it laid out for you. You can do X, Y, and Z. Then you can present, and we want you to present. So whereas normally you wouldn't say, hey, we want a white person to be on the stage, you know, you want it eventually one day, we want it to be a meritocracy.
Yes.
But we have to do
and that also builds a career path as well. You know, as far as like, oh, so if I do want to get on the stage, then that means I need to go get this certification and then that starts to create that path. So
I was wondering why they didn't call me yet. I was like, my phone's not ringing.
I'm getting, my feelings are hurt,
hey,
but now I know.
When your Fit On app gets 1 million views, when your Fit On app gets 1 million views, Brendan, she'll call you. Amy will call you. She's just waiting for 1 million views. She's
gotta build my cloud up a little bit.
Yeah, she's watching the clicker. She's just waiting. You know what's funny? Item 3 that I sent you guys in an email to be discussed is the inclusiveness, because Amy, I feel, and I'm not saying this because I've heard in 23 years of managing and being an educator, I have seen incredible inclusiveness, but to a certain level. But I never thought about it. I never thought about it because I was hiring every color in the rainbow. But I never thought about it. I never thought about the general manager level. I never thought about the CEC provider. It never crossed my mind. And how wonderful it is now. It's absolutely on my mind every day. And that's why we, generated this podcast series. But the inclusiveness piece, I just have always thought it could be a model. And I mean this, and I've said it many times. I think the fitness industry could be the model for it. But now I'm realizing it's only if the executives who have the voice and they have the vast network and the resources, it's only if they're yelling at the top of the mountain. Do you agree, Amy?
I think it's both are important. I think we have work to do everywhere in the industry and in the business. So everything we talked about today and all the things we've talked about being, there's two things that need to happen in the community. It's not just accessibility, but there's a cultural acceptance as well. And that's a piece of what we've learned is that, not everybody wants to work out. Not everybody wants to eat healthy. So for our profession is taboo for a lot of people. They're just not interested. Mm-hmm. So I think there's work to do from the top, but there is a lot of work to do from the bottom. And we can sit back all day long and say, oh, I would always hire a Black person if they were qualified, but they're not qualified. So why aren't they qualified? And that's the question all of us need to be asking is we've got to go back and say why and why and why and what can I do? And like I said, everybody in our industry has a responsibility to not just provide career opportunities, but to provide health, fitness, and wellness to every human being in our communities. And so at IDEA, we really think about this in two ways. Yes, there's the career development and the people we want to be on stage and the people we want to groom to be CEOs, but we also want to celebrate fit pros that are in the community that are making a difference, that are making fitness and health accessible and finding ways to bring people in their community into our space. So it's both.
Yeah, and new business owners. I mean, if we had, we talked about Suburbia 2 podcasts ago, and in Suburbia, they're every half mile. You have access to a fitness something, but then you have to have the resources to do it. If we could find the right mix that matches people where they're at, and you had that same outlet every half mile in Black communities or lower socio-economic communities, I do think you start to change the health and wellness of an entire area slowly. Like Brendan said, long-term plan, but I really think you do impact it, but it does need to be someone like them, I think. And I don't know if that's exclusive, but Kim did say that with a lot of passion in her first podcast. It has to be someone I'm familiar with. And we even joked about Reggie didn't take up golf until Tiger Woods hit a golf ball. He's like, oh, well, let me go see what this is all about. So I do believe there is some truth to that. I really do. As we kind of close out, Reggie, anything you're going to attack? I know you're going to have a lot on your plate, buddy. You've got Body Lab coming and you're transitioning out of something and something very exciting. Anything that you're going to put into play in action?
Yeah, I don't know if this is public or not, but actually BA and I have been part of some conversations where we're looking at getting into those communities, block party, type of workouts and stuff like that. And I'm really excited about that, about possibly going home to do those. But I just excited about being able to give back and share the experiences that I've been through, and be able to help somebody avoid the obstacles and the hurdles that I faced, and just kind of those blind spots that I didn't know were coming, and be able to see if I can fast forward somebody else through. And so that's really been on the top of my mind, and it's been leading to stuff like this, because as soon as you start to put something on top of your mind, then all of a sudden all these different opportunities and conversations and all type of stuff have been pouring out. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, that
right,
power
great.
of yep.
Power of intention,
so,
right? I know it's a cliche,
exactly.
but it really is true. It's a truth. I mean, if you put it into intention and you talk to enough of people about the intention, and then it falls on the right ears, then it can start to gain traction. Well, Brendan has so much experience being an advocate to want fairness for all humans, period. Brendan, what are your thoughts as you kind of go into second half of the summer? What's on your mind, man, about this subject?
Yeah, well, I think, one thing that's kind of that's first and foremost is coronavirus and just being able to get over that hurdle. But that's kind of just slowing us down. If that wasn't, we'd hit the ground running full speed right now. If that wasn't in front of us, we'd already be coaching and doing workouts. So I'm excited to get that, but just trying to navigate in these waters that are uncertain around the fears of coronavirus and when it's safe to get people outside. We want to call these outdoor workouts that we do when we go to these different communities. We want to call them block parties. So block party workouts. And so I'm excited to do that. And yeah, just making a difference, making an impact. And I think Reggie hit the nail on the head, is fast forwarding somebody's career and avoiding the pitfalls that we may have had.
Well, and to that point, remember we said, if you're interested and you're the young, inspired person with no tools in your toolbox, but you're young and inspired, we could save you 10 years of your career to learn in a year or 6 months, or even a couple of cups of coffee. We'll save you lots of years of trouble.
And we can see things in them that they don't even see in themselves. And that's what I love. Like, we have so much confidence and we can boost them up. Like, I see so much talent and power and capability in you that you don't even know that you have yet. I want to help you stoke this fire and this flame and turn it into an inferno.
Dude, if doing that doesn't give you goosebumps, then God bless you. Reggie, Brendan, do you think UCLA could somehow, you would be talking to them about some programming? No? To me, man.
So, I mean, UCLA does it right, but they also do it wrong. And UCLA is like in the heart of a very robust economic center in LA. So there's not a lot of socio-economic equality in this area where UCLA is. Now, what does UCLA do right? They go into every community, which is what we're looking to do. But what UCLA, in essence, UCLA operates on a meritocracy. So they don't care about your color. They don't care about your ethnicity, gender, all of that. They're just looking for the best applicants to come in. So, you know, that is equality, but it's not fairness. So they're going into these communities, lower socioeconomic communities, standardized testing where people don't have access to education and food and health and all the things that some people do have, especially in LA or other parts of the country. So they're saying that you can't come to our university, even though they go to other parts of Los Angeles and recruit talent that eventually that they want to come to UCLA, but they're telling you can't come here unless you're an athlete. So with that being said, the people of color, Black people, we're back to the same amount of Black people at UCLA that we had in the 70s. So it's not a representation as a state school. It's not a representation of the Los Angeles community and Latinos and Asian and Black and so on and so forth. It doesn't represent being a state school. It doesn't represent the community of Los Angeles. So they do it right by going to other places, but they don't do enough to apply proper fairness application process.
No, I got it. Who knew? I just got educated right there. Thank you. I know that Amy has some cool things to finish up with and some little dangle. She's going to dangle some discounts for us. So Amy, take us home, man.
Yeah. So I told you we're doing the work internally. So first and foremost, we're just looking within, educating ourselves, doing the work we need to do to really take a stance for inclusion and for diversity. And I love one of our subject matter experts told us that when you take care of equality and inclusion, the diversity will happen naturally. And I think, Brendan, you said something similar. So then the next step of that is our action items. So what are we going to do to improve our industry and the communities that we serve? And we're taking on challenges for ourselves. I talked about more equity around presenting and writing and really being more intentional around finding new speakers and talent. We are building a committee of team members who will really help guide us and support us in this mission. And then we will be asking the industry to take a pledge with us. So watch for that as IDEA goes down the road, as you know, when we build this out of how can you show up in your community differently to attract more Black fitness professionals or to impact your community, we're going to invite you to take that pledge and see what it means in your own business. So the last thing I wanted to share, Chan, is that for your audience, we do have our IDEA World virtual conference coming up August 21st and 22nd. I'm going to give you a discount code that you can share out with these show notes for all of your audience. And then I did mention we will be offering scholarships. So if you've been impacted by COVID, you are unemployed, you simply cannot afford, and you're wondering how am I going to get my CECs this year, that's for you. So watch at ideafit.com. We'll have more details on the scholarships. and as well for Black fitness professionals. So it's part of our contribution and helping with different marginalized groups to attract more people to our industry.
There you go. There you go. It sounds like there's a lot of intention going to the folks where they are and meeting them where they are. I think it's great. Well, this was awesome. I could sit around and have coffee for the next couple of hours with you guys. Seriously. Reggie, good luck. I know you're going to be talking to me later.
Thank you for putting this on, man. This is awesome, brother. Yeah, thank you for leading the charge, man.
You're very welcome. I sat for probably 2 weeks on the idea, and I'm really glad that I executed on it, and it makes me feel good. And I just have such, I'll say it for the 4th time, my relationships with the Black community in fitness go back so deep, and so many years that I couldn't imagine not doing something to at least highlight opportunities, share ideas, and to get leaders like you guys that are really impacting, educating, and really Amy in her position specifically can be such an influencer. And y'all heard fitness influencer. Well, that doesn't really mean much to us if you look on Instagram. But when you talk about Amy Boone's and Brendan's and Reggie's and Chan's, I think, that's the type of influencer with integrity that I think we're all looking for help. You know what I mean? Not the fluffy stuff. So I really appreciate it, guys. I'm going to tune out now. I'm going to be calling you, Reggie, later because I want some details. Brendan, I know you're going to be calling. What's going on, Reggie? What's happening with you, Reggie? And then, Amy, this was an absolute blessing. Thanks for being so gracious and meeting us and offering a discount. And look, no kidding. If we can get 100, 1,000 shares, boom, and then it just explodes and we get 10,000 views in the first week or two, nothing would make me happy because it is going to fall on the right ears who are passionate and have influence. And that's what this is supposed to be really about. Okay? All right, Jan. I love y'all. See you later.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.